National Guard troops preparing to deploy to the southern border as part of President Trump's plan to secure the boundary with Mexico.
The Texas National Guard has operated along the Texas-Mexico border for decades. The Texas National Guard is a force that is ready.
This is a common trick the liberals pull on us. They talk about illegal immigration as if it's a victimless crime. What about the American people? What about the taxpayers who have to fund this?
Tariffs against Chinese and U.S. goods are still months away, but clearly the stakes are growing higher.
I'm not saying there won't be a little pain, but we're going to have a much stronger country when we're finished.
President Trump slaps new sanctions on dozens of Russian oligarchs and government officials.
Targets intended to hit close to home for President Putin.
The president is absolutely correct when he says no one has been tougher on Russia.
The problems that Facebook has right now is almost unimaginable. They're going to be asked about that next week when Mark Zuckerberg testifies in front of Congress.
Could you have an opt-out button? Please don't use my profile data for advertising.
We don't have an opt-out at the highest level. That would be a paid product.
That is the way to start a Saturday morning.
Yeah, Journey.
If you're not up yet, I hope you are now.
Don't Stop Believing.
Nope. Is that the song?
That's another
it's a different song.
Yeah, another
way you want. We wish we got this show any way we want it. When we show up, they tell us what the show's going to be. We try to convince them to cover other things, and they never do.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm in green today because I'm thinking about the Masters.
No, you're thinking about beating Pete later in the show when you guys play.
Yeah.
Here we go.
See, Abby's on my side. So, at least on this point, which is that we're going to do a little putt-putt. We're going to have a little golf competition. Basketball won around the Final Four, around March Madness. Didn't go as well for Pete, so he's, you know, maybe he'll win.
I'm beleaguered, but I'm hoping to recover from that.
Well, you guys had a busy day yesterday. I saw you anchoring at 2, you at 5, and then at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
It made me feel very lazy in my apartment as I was like cleaning things. It reminded me of like eating outside like a gluttonous meal and seeing people run by in their marathon shirts, and you're just like, you just feel lazy. You two made me feel that way.
You said some nice tweets, though. Did you buy Dunkin' Donuts?
I did. It's on the way. Dunkin' Donuts is on the way for the crew.
Kind. Thank you.
But a lot of news this morning, as there always is when we wake up here on a Saturday morning. We want to get right to a Fox News alert. A policy into action. Arizona and Texas National Guard troops start deploying to the border. Started overnight last night.
That's right. So James Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, signed a deployment order. You've got, and already Texas, one of the states that has vowed to send 250 National Guard troops by Monday. Arizona says they'll send 150 National Guard troops by next week. A number of other states under consideration. Important about this, Title 32 means these troops will be under federal pay and status, but under state control. So ultimately, governors making decisions right now as far as whether their troops are involved or not. Some states also saying we're not going to be involved. It'll be interesting to see how governors react to the request from the Secretary of Defense.
Because that cooperation, you remember, is so important when the president makes a decision like this. Working with the states and working with the governors is key. And this is not the first time this has happened, by the way. You understand this. This happened most recently under President Obama back in 2010.
Now, President Obama only had about 2,500 National Guard troops. President Trump talking about 4,000. So that's an interesting increase.
That's a big increase. And George W. Bush did it in 2016 with 1,200 troops.
2006.
Excuse me.
But there didn't seem to be the outrage there is now, or the lack of cooperation from governors and people wanting to help put this in place.
You've got governors from Oregon, Montana, and even Nevada, which I believe has a Republican governor, saying we're not going to participate, waiting on Jerry Brown in California.
That's big,
that's a big one. Ultimately, you know, if governors are running this and volunteering to send a certain number of troops in coordination with the Pentagon, if you got to get to 4,000, there may be some states where you say, hey, you've got a large National Guard, we need your troops. Could lead to a showdown. But as of right now,
the president only threw this out there a few days ago, and now is already acting. He's already putting it into place. You said Secretary Mattis signing the order last night, just days after the president said we're going to do it.
And DHS is also helping as well. So that's going on, but the president also signing a memo ordering the end to catch and release policies, and the Attorney General Sessions ordering a zero tolerance at the border. So there are a few different things going on all at once.
So they want to. We heard a lot about the catch and release program in light of the caravan that was headed to the border, and a lot of people talking about, well, we have this ridiculous catch and release program where illegals who are caught are then released before their court date.
They get a foot on this side of the border, and they can be released, and all of a sudden they're here.
And it could be a couple of years.
That's
We had a guest on, a Border Patrol agent last weekend, and that's what he said. And
Brandon Judd.
Exactly.
Exactly. So this is what the ending of the catch and release program might mean. I don't know if we can go back to that original or not. The original one was, there we go. Immigrants caught on U.S. can't be released while cases play out in court. That's what you just referred to, Ed. Departments will share information, federal prosecutors to make prosecuting criminal immigration offenses a priority, and U.S. attorneys along the border to prosecute all referrals from DHS for illegal entry. Key here, the order says that it is telling DHS to submit a report to the White House within 45 days, a review of facilities, civilian and military, as well as personnel. Because if you're going to make the policy that if you're detained at the border, you're detained until your court date, some of these folks have been waiting a year or two usually. They're released, and then they are supposed to come back to court 2 years later, and they never do.
Right, and then they're just out somewhere.
But if you're going to hold them, you got to have somewhere to hold them. And if you don't have those facilities yet, where do they come from? Ultimately, things like this come down to logistics. If you're going to hold that.
And also, the President and Justice Department in the last week also moved forward on this new policy where immigration judges have to meet new quotas. They have to hear more cases than they were hearing before. The union for these immigration judges had been saying, no, 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 not such a big workload. Let's keep the number down. Now the Trump administration is saying, no, you need to increase the workload so that there can be more deportations. So it's interesting.
What's interesting, though, in all of this is, I think, how little people knew about the laws in this country. I think that's a big takeaway. I mean, even the president seemed to be shocked by the way the system works. And now we're sitting here wondering, what do we do to change that? How do we make it so we live in a country where there are laws that make sense, that allow people to come here the right way, to live that American dream? But we've got to start somewhere.
And how do we you're exactly right, because I think a lot of people thought, well, the illegal action of crossing the border comes with a certain set of consequences. Yeah, you may get deported, but this zero tolerance policy is now putting new penalties on crossing the border. So if you cross the first time illegally, it's up to 6 months. And if you cross a second time, you get up to 2 years is what you can be hit with. And it becomes a felony. So that's where the zero tolerance comes from. You come back again, now you're a felon, which really undermines your ability to stay here at all.
Which is why Abby's point is so important, which is that we have all these conversations about DACA and broader comprehensive immigration reform. What kind of new laws and regulations we're going to come up with? We have not for years been enforcing the laws and regulations on the books.
Right.
The ones that exist right now are not being enforced.
So all this is going on. And last night there was a lot. So at least one migrant hopped the border wall. This was last night in less than 2 minutes. So if you are thinking about going over the border, last night was probably not the night to do it. So here's a photo of this man trying to get over that wall.
Takes less than 2 minutes.
The idea is he's got two buddies. One's helping him up. The other one's a lookout. This is a border wall that's 20 feet high, so 6 meters along the border. And listen, he hops up, pushed over, jumps over, and indicative of if you don't have proper barriers, they can still not be effective. And when I read this article, it's from AFP, there's a line in there that really struck me. It said the guy that jumped the wall disappeared into the desert, running toward a group of houses just visible on the horizon. And it got me thinking about, what about the people that live in those houses? What about the American citizens that live in the houses, and every single day people are jumping into their backyard, illegals running to hide amongst those houses? That's a life lived on American soil. And if you're not controlling that part of the border, their lives are under siege. That's the forgotten men and women, the citizens of this country, who deserve to be thought of more than the guy illegally jumping the fence.
Well, a lot of this conversation started with this BuzzFeed article, where you have 1,400 or so migrants coming over, many of them from Honduras, and the article's pointing out in caravans. So people are wanting an update to where they are. Are they in Mexico? Are they able to get over that border? From what we've learned, they've sort of dispersed. Many of them are going their own way now. They've not completely dismantled, but we'll keep an eye on how
There's
this
still
plays
a caravan. It's just gotten smaller. It's not fully disbanded, as some of the initial news reports say Wednesday, Thursday suggested.
Sure. I mean, you've probably got the groups of them that say you've got the groups that are saying we're staying with the visas they've gotten in Mexico. The other group that's saying we're using those 20 days to get to the border. And if you've been exposed the way you have by the President of the United States, then of course you're not going to travel with 1,000 people. You're going to break out into small groups, and we'll see where that develops.
Well, another story people are talking about. Remember that tarmac meeting during the 2016 campaign? I believe it was in the summer. Loretta Lynch was the sitting Attorney General for Barack Obama. It happened there in Phoenix at the airport. And former President Bill Clinton just happened to be on another plane right nearby. And initially we were told, and this, remember, of course, was right in the middle of the Hillary Clinton email investigation by the FBI, which is overseen by the Attorney General. Loretta Lynch at the time. We were told, you know, Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch, they were talking about their grandkids. They were talking about their golf games. Yeah.
Just a casual conversation.
That FBI investigation really didn't come up. And then months and months later, James Comey said this.
I'm not picking on the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who I like very much, but her meeting with President Clinton on that airplane was the capper for me. And I then said, you know what, the department cannot by itself credibly end this.
So why does this matter? Two things happening. On Monday, Loretta Lynch will be giving an interview to NBC News talking about this very subject.
Her version of events.
Her version of events. Well, why is that a curious timing?
She would like to get ahead
of what?
Of the James Comey week, which is the following. He has a book coming out, which he may very well talk about this. And obviously she wants to get ahead of that. She wants to tell her own story. So you can imagine the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a lot of tit for tat, I think, of what happened during those days.
Do you think there might be other people like Susan Rice and others who might also be coming out, hey, I'm ready to do an interview. I want to get my side out. Because there's going to be a lot of facts and a lot of counterfacts and a lot of charges and countercharges. It's going to get interesting.
And Michael Horowitz's IG report coming out as well. I mean, all this could be an avalanche where we actually, the people, get to learn what our officials were doing.
Imagine that.
That would be nice.
A little transparency.
That's right.
All right, we're going to be with you all morning long. I do want to bring you, though, some other serious headlines that we are following this morning. We do begin with a Fox News alert and 14 people killed in a horrific bus crash carrying a Canadian junior hockey team. They were driving to a game. A semi collided with the bus carrying players between the ages of 16 and 21, along with their coaches. It was on a highway. Another 14 people also injured, 3 of them critically. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeting in part, quote, I cannot imagine what these parents are going through, and my heart goes out to everyone affected by this terrible tragedy. That is so heartbreaking. And Environmental Protection Agency head Scott Pruitt meets with President Trump amid growing calls for his resignation. The report coming as Pruitt is under an ethics review over an arrangement that he had to rent a Capitol Hill condo from a pair of lobbyists for $50 a night. $50! Democrats now calling on Pruitt to step down. The president tweeting this, Pruitt is doing a great job but is totally under siege. That is such a President Trump tweet. All right, well, round 2 of the Masters in the books, and there's a new leader in the clubhouse.
132. Eyes it. Oh. Wow.
Patrick Reed shooting 6 under par, taking over the top spot on the leaderboard by 2 strokes. Tiger Woods come back falling short, barely making the cut line this weekend. Tiger 4 over for the day, now 13 shots off the pace. And a rainy day is expected at Augusta National for round 3 later today. That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for Tiger to catch up, but he can get in the mix today maybe to make it an interesting Sunday.
He'd have to have 2 big Tiger days. And then would we see the red shirt again?
Oh, we'll see the red shirt, I think,
you think
on
so?
Sunday. Yeah, that's his trademark.
All right, and America to top the leaderboard, which is important as well. All right, President Trump taking on 2 foes, China and Russia, with tough talk and tough policy. But you wouldn't know that if you listened to the liberal media.
Our president is a useful idiot.
This White House doesn't have a lot of credibility.
He's as dismissive of truth as he is of ethics.
Thank you, David Gergen. Nigel Farage, here to react next.
And do you want to keep your personal information private on Facebook? Well, then you're going to have to pay to do that. This is real.
I'm done with Facebook.
You have to pay.
Our relationship is over.
Oh, no, you're breaking off.
This president's been sending mixed messages to the Russians that make you wonder, is there a consistent policy?
There's still the question of why President Trump has not taken a more aggressive public stance against Vladimir Putin.
I would not go to the bank on trying to make China say out.
It's unclear exactly what the president's trying to accomplish. Whether he follows through on it, well, that remains to be seen.
Unbiased analysis across the board. The media quickly taking aim at President Trump's newest actions against Russia and China.
But with the president unleashing tough talk and tough policy, why isn't he getting credit for taking on our foes?
Here with some insight and analysis, Nigel Farage, former UK Independence Party leader and Fox News contributor. Good morning, sir. What say you?
Good morning.
Look, you know, we're not used, are we, to leaders that stand up and be tough. The globalist agenda has been such that no one dares criticize China, despite the fact they cheat all the time, they steal intellectual property, they overproduce steel and try and close down our factories for strategic reasons. And just think, you know, as you say, the liberal media, they're so full of their own prejudice against Trump that even when he gets things right, they can't credit him. He went to Saudi Arabia. He talked tough. What's happened in Saudi Arabia? fundamental reform. He talked tough on North Korea. What's happening? There are going to be talks. I mean, actually, in terms of foreign policy, this president has been a huge success so far.
Is this when his unpredictability could work in his favor? When you're dealing with leaders like Kim Jong-un, with the folks in Beijing and Russia, they don't know his next move. They don't know what he's going to do. We haven't had that most recently with Barack Obama. He played it a little bit safer. So with Donald Trump, could that help him in this situation?
I think with Barack Obama, I mean, America virtually disappeared off the world stage. No one took America seriously. He wasn't saying anything. He wasn't doing anything. No, you're right. Trump's unpredictability, has got everybody thinking. I thought the way he played the tariff game with the European Union was really very clever. I'm going to put tariffs on. They all scream, please don't, Mr. President. Oh, okay, do you know what? I won't. But you know who's the boss in that relationship.
And the European Union is also obviously impacted by the unfair trade practices of China. So they see this president standing up and saying, your state-run businesses, the way you subsidize them, all the things that you do lead to intellectual property theft. Is Europe just going to free ride off of America's willingness to stand up to China, or is there a chance they actually join with us to take on these practices?
I don't see it. To be honest with you, the European Union is so in the grip of the big global businesses arguing the globalist agenda that they've kind of forgotten what national interest is all about. And as I say, steel. What the Chinese have done with steel is to close down steel production all over the West. They did it deliberately. They did it willfully. It wasn't about money. It was about strategy, so that we become reliant on China in the future for steel. We've got to stand up. And I have to also say the World Trade Organization needs to really examine what it's doing. They've let China be part of this club and consistently break the rules. So we kind of need more Trumps around the world. I'm hoping...
Do you think he really wants a trade war, though, or do you think this is sort of the art of the deal style, where you throw it out there and you walk it back?
Trump's a negotiator. Talk hard, then maybe concede a bit. He's much cleverer than anyone gives him credit for. The guy is playing chess. He's thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead. Of that, I have no doubt.
All right, Nigel Farage.
Thank you.
Great to have you with us.
Appreciate it.
All right, Michelle Obama's latest swipe at President Trump is a bad parent metaphor.
The 8 years that Barack was president, it was sort of like having the good parent at home, and now perhaps we have the other parent.
Which parent is that? Well, is it fair? We are going to debate next.
And even more anti-Trump texts are revealed between those FBI officials. So why haven't they been fired yet? That's a good question. Some quick headlines. White House staffers lining up to say farewell to outgoing National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster on his last day in the West Wing. McMaster writing in a statement, quote, I wish the very best to my successor, Ambassador John Bolton, and I thank President Trump for the opportunity to serve. Bolton on the job Monday morning. Meanwhile, CIA Director Mike Pompeo will appear before the Senate on Thursday for his confirmation for Secretary of State. President Trump tapping Pompeo after ousting Rex Tillerson last month. Pete?
Thanks, Ed. Well, former First Lady Michelle Obama taking a swipe at President Trump, comparing his leadership to bad parenting. Listen.
The 8 years that Barack was president, it was sort of like having the good parent at home, the one that told you to eat your carrots and go to bed on time. And now perhaps we have the other parent. Maybe it feels fun to some for now because we can eat candy all day and stay up late and not follow the rules.
Carrots or candy? Here to debate these comments, Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright and Katrina Pearson, a senior advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign. Thank you both for being here this morning. Antoine, I will start with you. So this idea that it was the Obamas for 8 years, sort of were America's national nannies. They were telling us all, eat your carrots and go to bed on time and take what's good for you. Is that a point of view that sort of affirms their sense that they know what's best for us and we can't choose for ourselves?
I think what the First Lady was trying to articulate is that there is a big difference in the two types of leadership of the two presidents we have now. Donald Trump was a different type of leader than Barack Obama. And when you look at parents and what we know as a parent, what we do know is that parents are people we can look up to, people we can be proud of. And I don't think many people are proud of the type of leadership we have that's occupying the White House here today.
Okay, Katrina, so Rasmussen shows the president's approval rating for the first time over 50% at 51%. So there seem to be a few people that like eat candy, if you will. And if candy's so bad, I mean, lay out for us your view of that analogy.
Well, look, I'm very proud of the parent that's in the White House because I know his children, and they are amazing people. But this was just truly, Pete, this was liberalism, elitism on full display to constantly insult and demean the American people without any accountability of their own. I mean, for a second, has Michelle Obama ever asked herself the simple question of maybe the middle-class voters believed me when I told them that Hillary Clinton wasn't fit to be in the White House because she couldn't take care of her own house? Or perhaps maybe Obama should be asking himself if the voters in Pennsylvania believed him when he told everyone that Hillary Clinton was bought and paid for by special interests and campaigned on her against NAFTA using her own statements from 1996. Perhaps people just believed the Obamas, and that seems to be the missing chapter in Hillary Clinton's book, What Happened. The title simply is The Obamas.
Katrina, you want to make this about Hillary Clinton, but I want to make this about President Obama compared to Donald Trump and this administration. For 8 years, we did not have the conversations we're having now about this White House. I don't think parents had to worry about what tweets were coming from the President of the United States and whether they wanted their children to be able to read those tweets or hear about those tweets on the news. I don't think people in the Obama
administration really don't care what the president tweets. People care when their children are shot and killed by illegal aliens
parents are not concerned about what the president tweets. That is absolutely ridiculous.
About Twitter.
So you mean presidents are not concerned about what the president of the United States has to say? Because he articulates his viewpoints to the American people by Twitter. You mean to tell me you don't think parents are concerned?
He tells the people the truth, unlike Barack Obama did. But I will tell you what parents are concerned with, which is why they fundamentally rejected the last 8 years of Barack Obama. They want to be able to give their kids Cheetos if they want to, because Michelle Obama thought that parents couldn't decide what their own children could eat for lunch. Parents want their children to be safe when they go for a walk on the pier with their family and not be shot by an illegal alien that was deported five times.
I'm sorry President Obama worked in a bipartisan way to get real comprehensive immigration reform done. And Republicans, absolutely.
An executive order is not bipartisan.
Katrina,
he illegally forced DACA on the American people. And the recipient, DAPA, was already rejected by the courts. This is why we're in this problem right now, because Obama ran the country like a king.
President Obama working with Graham and others in the Senate to pass comprehensive immigration reform?
What bill was that? What was the name of that bill?
Well,
what bill was that?
Bill that never came to fruition and created the kind of environment.
Well, it wasn't about whether it came to fruition. He reached across the aisle to get it done.
We've got to leave it right there. Ultimately,
I
would remind everybody that we didn't vote for a parent. We voted for a president and a commander-in-chief. Sometimes you need some tough medicine. Antoine Seawright, Katrina Pearson, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great to see you.
All right, well, still ahead, it's the backstage brawl dominating the sports world. Now UFC megastar Conor McGregor could be facing some serious jail time. And President Trump says he's not going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But who needs it when you have rallies and speeches instead?
You know, this was going to be my remarks. It would have taken about 2 minutes, but what the hell. I'm very presidential. I just think that I want to get it straightened out with the press before I do it. So it's probably pretty unlikely I won't do it. I didn't do it last year. I had a rally instead, which was great. Right, and the dinner was a massive failure. So I probably won't do it.
All right, so that was President Trump talking about the White House Correspondent Dinner. He didn't go last year. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, and as you heard there, he's not planning on going. And the question is that the right decision? Because back through history, this is one time a year the press corps gets together with the president. They let their hair down, as you said, Ed. You poke fun at each other. Everyone kind of relaxes and enjoys that night. But the relationship's very different now with President Trump and the media, unlike we've ever seen before.
Ed, how do your colleagues in the media feel about that? Your colleagues
Well, people, I think, are going to be up in arms because they wish the president would go. I believe he's the first president since Ronald Reagan when he was shot in 1981, which obviously was a good excuse not to go to a press dinner. And so it's been a bipartisan, nonpartisan tradition in a way. I wish the president would just go. Maybe next year he will. And by the way, let me just say, the dinner, it's never mentioned, the dinner raises, I used to be president of it, I should disclose.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah, you did.
It raises thousands of dollars for scholarships for young journalists, okay? So there is a good cause there. But I understand, on the other hand, that the press corps, by and large, has been beating the heck out of this president. And he probably feels like, why would I go there for a couple of hours and have them, you know, be in the same room with the people?
What do you win by going, right?
Yeah.
And maybe he's better off. Remember last year he held his own rally? So, I think it was in Pennsylvania or somewhere.
Yeah.
But he's had many moments on the campaign trail where he sort of has his own comedy night.
Well, the
right?
dinner is known for its comedy, but ultimately it's so funny to watch the press corps, which hate him so much, but then are just so obsessed with getting him, come to my dinner, please come to my nerd prom, please, please. So I think it's this president who doesn't necessarily need that platform because he can create his own. So for your own benefit, because he won't be at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, we put together some of his best and funniest moments from some rallies. Listen.
You know, this was going to be my remarks. It would have taken about 2 minutes, but that would have been a little boring.
But our new slogan, when we start running, keep America great! Exclamation point. Remember I used to say how easy it is to be presidential? But you'd all be out of here right now. But you'd be so bored. I'm very presidential. By the way, what a nice picture that is. Look at that. I'd love to watch that guy speak. I try like hell to hide that bald spot, folks. I work harder.
And you know what? Actually, Pete, I think you're making the point because that's awesome. And on the campaign trail and at these rallies, the president is quite funny.
And look, he pokes fun of himself, as we just saw there, which is what this dinner is sort of all about.
Which is why I think he should go next year. I get why he doesn't want it. Maybe after the midterms, maybe it's a little less political. Go in 2019 because he can poke fun at himself. And you know what? If the comedian that night wants to beat up on the president, they beat up on Obama, they beat up on Bush. Take a little bit of that and then go up there and have some fun. Make fun of yourself, but go after the press corps.
Honest question: why always a liberal comedian? No, this is not it because you're inside
compared to your other questions.
Well, exactly. Michelle Wolf, who's from The Daily Show, will be emceeing this year. Out as a liberal, we know. Why not 1 year decide to say we're going to go outside of our liberal box and pick someone in the middle or even right of center and
that
have
would be
fun
fun
with that?
That's a great point. I think they actually should. The comedian,
Roseanne, maybe?
The comedian should. that would be actually a very interesting choice.
That would be great.
No, but this year, it's the Trump brand. I think if you think about his base, they're wanting him out doing a rally. He has never been one with the media.
There should be a conservative comedian. That's why I think Pete should do it next year.
You look at the conservative part right, but
actually,
else
what do you
better
think?
be writing those jokes.
Why don't you write us, friends@foxnews.com, should Pete Hegseth be the comedian next year for the Nerd Prom?
Or who should host? What conservative would you suggest? Friends@foxnews.com. I'm deflecting as best I can.
Yes, you are. All right, we have some other headlines I want to bring you this morning, starting with this. A driver intentionally ramming his car into a Miami police station with a suspicious package. That is according to police. The incident sparking a bomb scare.
There was a weapon inside that vehicle. There was a safe and some other objects in that car. That's the only reason why we chose to have the bomb squad respond.
36-year-old Gibson Sharonfont was pinned inside, forcing fire and rescue to cut the door off. He was then taken to a local hospital with just some minor injuries. And MMA fighter Conor McGregor could face 7 years in prison for his bizarre outbursts at Barclays Center. Did you see this? McGregor appearing in court hours after turning himself in. TMZ video showing McGregor throwing a dolly at a bus full of fighters, smashing a window at Media Day in New York City. 2 people on board are hurt and unable to fight. McGregor is charged with assault and criminal mischief. Maybe 7 years in prison.
Things were going well for him.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
All right, well, a New York Times recipe for a peanut butter and pickle sandwich is tearing readers apart about the unlikely pair. One person tweeting that some people just want to watch the world burn. Others saying, I grew up eating them dill pickles only. Some even cracking some jokes saying when the social team gets high on Friday and never switches to their personal accounts.
I I've never heard of that, but it actually sounds really
Oh, you
good.
haven't? A lot of
Peanut
pregnant
butter
women
and pickles?
talk about that.
Peanut butter and pickle sandwiches?
Weird cravings. Yeah.
Sounds
Two things that
amazing,
you really like,
actually.
you put them together, you may
Really?
think it doesn't taste good, but it does.
We need to make Pete one of these sandwiches. He likes to eat on the
I think
show.
we all need to try it.
Let's try it.
Do that.
I like
A round of pickled peanut butter
the
sandwich.
Elvis one is good.
I need
Peanut butter and-
fluffy
and
white bread,
banana.
though.
That is good.
Peanut butter and bananas.
Peanut
Great.
butter and
banana?
Oreo
But
is the
pickles
best,
are
though.
better than bananas. So maybe this is even better than that.
Try it.
I mean, that's an objective assessment about pickles and bananas. Rick, what do you think?
Peanut butter
and pickle sandwich with white bread.
I thought about it as it was happening. Like, I think that's not that bad. And peanut butter and banana is obvious. Like,
it's great.
That's like peanut butter and jelly. It's like
Is
the
it
same
really?
thing. Peanut butter banana?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a sweet fruit on peanut butter. It's
Yeah.
what happens. All right, guys. All right, there's really big rain across parts of California yesterday. In fact, a lot of flooding going on here across Central California. This is the storm. Continue to bring moisture in here. That will kind of taper off today. By tomorrow, you're going to dry out there. But take a look at this. Here we are, April, what, guys? April 7th, maybe? Something like that. Look at this. That snow across parts of Oklahoma, so very cold all the way down across parts of the south. Springfield, Missouri, overnight saw 0.3 inches of snow. Heavy rain down to the south. We saw some tornadoes yesterday, so something in it for everybody here. This pulls off towards the east. We've got snow across the Ohio Valley this morning. Rain to the south of this. The Masters today looking for some rain. Probably a bit of a washout. You're clear right now in Florida. Expect to see some rain showers move in there later on today, and you're going to be kind of stormy for the next number of days. Here's your current temperatures also. Look at that, guys, 24 degrees in Kansas City here in April. There's a lot of people mad. There's a lot of farmers worried here about agriculture and stuff that they have planted as well. So, unfortunately, the cold is still here.
Yeah.
This pattern sticks with us probably about another week. Some signs that temperatures get a little bit closer to normal by next weekend.
Wow.
So,
Chicago,
producers, we should plan
Kansas City,
something.
Denver, all in the 20s. They all have baseball teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true, outdoor baseball.
Little chilly.
Coincidence?
This is not good for any. Yeah. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right. A West Virginia mom bursts into tears, telling the president just how much tax cuts mean to her and her family.
I just want to say thank you. I said I wasn't going to cry. This is a big deal. These tax cuts are a big deal. Thank you for fighting for us.
That woman joins us live next hour to share her heartwarming story.
And even more anti-Trump texts revealed between those FBI officials. So why haven't they been fired yet? I'm going to ask that question. I think there's an answer, I think. Welcome back. A couple of quick headlines for you. Sylvester Stallone surprising fans at the iconic statue of his famed character Rocky Balboa, the actor who famously portrayed the boxer stopping by while shooting the sequel to Creed in Philadelphia. Now that would be cool. The city was rededicating a plaque for the statue that went missing 12 years ago. And he's back. Arnold Schwarzenegger returning to his Los Angeles home after open heart surgery. The 70-year-old action hero and former governor of California said to be in good spirits after complications with a routine operation on March 29th. We certainly wish the governor the best. Abby, over to you.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Pete. All right, another new text message between the anti-Trump lovebirds inside the FBI, raising new questions about what they possibly withheld in the Russia investigation.
Now, during a 2016 trip to London to interview a key witness, FBI agent Peter Strzok texted FBI lawyer Lisa Page, quote, "I think we need to consider the lines of what we disclose to DOJ, as in the Justice Department. For example, the last stipulation notes we will not disclose."
Strzok has since been demoted after previous texts came to light, but many are asking, why haven't they been fired yet?
Well, let's get an answer. Joining us with his reaction live, Chris Swecker. You've seen him before. He served 24 years as an FBI special agent. He joins us now. Chris, let's first remind our viewers about what was going on between these two officials in terms of the anti-Trump text messages and how unusual you think that is. Or maybe it happened all the time. I don't know. You were there for 24 years. Walk us through it.
I certainly hope it didn't happen all the time. I never saw that type of bias in an investigation. So we know what they were texting because that information was released by the Inspector General. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the Inspector General within DOJ, it's like internal affairs. They oversee all of the Justice Department agencies who also have their own Office of Professional Responsibility. Now, the IG was given a mandate in January of 2017 to look at all of the actions of these agents and support staff leading up to the election. Mm-hmm. And prominent within that, of course, is the interaction between Page and Strzok. But there's a whole lot of other things that IG is looking at.
So what does it take then to get fired from the FBI? You look at this specific story, and many people are scratching their head wondering why they weren't.
I think this is part of a much broader investigation by the IG, and I just don't think they want to piecemeal it out. There's a lot to look at. There's a lot of investigation that's been done over the last year, and I just don't think, McCabe notwithstanding, I just don't think that the IG wants to piecemeal out the things that are going to happen, and I think it's very complicated because you've got potential criminal prosecutions mixed in some possible disciplinary action. I think it's going to be very explosive.
How do you think it will end?
I think we're going to see, at bare minimum, we're going to see a lot of disciplinary actions. I see Page and Strzok getting fired. I see other people like McCabe probably getting more than not just disciplinary action. But, we look at the allegations of altering documents, being in the tank for the Clinton, Clinton campaign, actually manipulating the investigation. So I think there's potential for criminal prosecution here.
Well, yeah, Chris, because remember, Peter Strzok was overseeing, he was basically the lead FBI agent in the Hillary Clinton email investigation. And meanwhile, he's sending these text messages to his girlfriend that are saying, things like they're saying back and forth. I was in the Walmart in rural Virginia. I could smell the Trump voters. Just this disdainful kind of stuff. And meanwhile, that man on the left was overseeing the investigation of the person, Hillary Clinton, running against Donald Trump. And what happens to him? Chris, he gets moved to the HR department. So he's in charge of human resources right now.
Yeah, these personnel actions are tricky. In the civil service, it's really difficult to just fire somebody. There has to be a whole deliberative process behind it. Much like what happened with McCabe, they're going to DOJ is going to send it across to the OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility within the FBI. Candace Will heads that up. She's a professional, been around for 14 years. She'll make some recommendations and decisions there that'll go up to the director, Chris Wray. It is a very drawn-out process, but as I said, I am not discounting the possibility of criminal prosecutions here for possible obstruction, honest services, wire or mail fraud or something like that.
All right, Chris Wecker, interesting. The stakes are high.
Why a lot of the American people have lost their trust with the Justice Department. All right, well, as Mark Zuckerberg gets ready to testify before Congress over the Facebook data scandal, we are now learning that you might have to pay, or you would have to pay, rather, to keep your personal information private. Kurt the Cyber Guy on next about all that.
Unbelievable. Plus Jason Chaffetz, Reince Priebus, California Congressman Duncan Hunter to talk immigration, all here live coming up.
Well, Facebook's #2, Sheryl Sandberg, says if you want to keep your personal information away from advertisers, you might have to pay for it.
We have different forms of opt-out. We don't have an opt-out at the highest level. That would be a paid product.
So Facebook revealed that data from up to 87 million users may have been improperly shared, and now CEO Mark Zuckerberg is set to face Congress about that issue next week.
Kurt the Cyber Guy here on all of that. She did a little media tour. She spoke to her own Dana Perino. How do you think she did, and how is Facebook dealing with all this?
There's not a mop large enough to clean up this mess at the moment.
It's bad.
It's bad, and Zuckerberg is really going to be grilled this coming Wednesday with Congress. I think what they're doing right now is just throwing as much media blitz out there as possible to look and appear as though they're being very proactive. But when I hear Sheryl Sandberg talk about a paid product, that's them trying to get us used to the idea with, oh yeah, we did know all along you were using our information for advertising, but there's a huge distinction here. One thing is, hey, we knew we were being used for advertising, but it was done in such a deceptive manner that it all shocks us as to what was happening.
Zuckerberg, you mentioned he's actually going to be testifying for 2 days on the Hill this week. So why don't you walk us through? He's going to face a lot of heat.
He's got a lot of heat going on for him. And then questions still about whether he's going to last in the leadership role at Facebook. Sheryl Sandberg would be widely considered a replacement. Some questions he's likely to get from Congress coming up starting Wednesday. Why didn't Facebook tell users that their data was misused by Cambridge Analytica? Because They knew this for so long. It was from 2015 they first realized this was going on, and they just sat on it. They're likely to get grilled on that one because, hey, he could have said something. They could have proactively alerted us as to what was going on. There was no transparency. What is the downside of making data available to third parties? I think we're learning that now. The downside is you have no control of it. So we end up with that data going to just about anybody. How is Facebook preparing for the 2018 midterms? Well, they do say they have a 6-point plan, and none of it makes a whole lot of sense. But
well, you can have a 6-point plan, but if it doesn't make sense,
you know, it's like got nothing in it.
Yeah, I just think that the entire platform has gotten away from them, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they rein that in. Am I willing to pay for Facebook? Not a chance.
No, we might have a breakup. Those are some really good-looking graphics, Kurt.
Thank you.
Well done.
Up all night.
Thanks for coming in.
Hats off to the graphics department.
Thanks, Kurt. All right, still to come, Chick-fil-A open on a Sunday. Apparently it could happen.
What?
I hope so. Plus, Jason Chaffetz, Dan Bongino, Reince Priebus, and Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams, all here live on this Saturday edition.
All right.